Midweek Murders contains graphic and explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Joe. I helped you out.
Wow.
I should be a recording artist, I know. Whew.
Hashtag offended.
Some moron in the place where I grew up.
Upplands Väsby.
No! You know they ain't the truth.
It's going to get to the stage where that's going to be genuinely where I thought you grew up.
And I'm going to believe you.
No, I didn't. Oh, no, wait, did I?
I think some moron put alcohol on a tampon and put it up their butt. It was a boy, obviously. Or
You
is
say
that...
obviously.
They tend to be a bit careless.
Is that just because all of the stories of women putting vodka-soaked tampons anywhere revolve around the vagina?
I don't think they would do that.
It has definitely been done.
The pH balance is so fragile. I don't know how that would turn out.
I mean, they didn't enjoy it.
Very badly, I'm assuming.
But I can 100% assure you, I have read A&E reports where people have put
good lord,
spirit-soaked tampons in their vahuha.
Vahuha.
The vahuha.
Speaking of...
We're not allowed to say that word live on air.
Speaking of vahuhas, the episode...
Vahuha.
I'm saying vahuha. What more do you want?
Jesus Christ, fucking immigrants.
Let me have my natural segue that you just talked over. Speaking of vahuhas... Play the jingle. What I was gonna say is...
No, leave it there. You can't top that. You sure you haven't been drinking?
Yes. I'm dry. I'm a hoo-ha.
Dry like you. Cunt.
I do have water. I'm not an animal.
Of course you do. Because you're so dry.
You're listening to Midweek Murders, and this week we're gonna discuss the case. It already went to shit. Speaking of which, natural segue. No, I'm just kidding.
Play the jingle.
You're
Take it seriously, man. This is our livelihood at stake.
It is if you keep not hitting yourself.
Well, if you'd have set up a GoFundMe by now, we could be bajillionaires.
I think bots have money. Just like me. I should just become a bot.
Would we legally be able to accept payment from the Russian government?
I don't know. Let's say yes.
I know a lawyer. I'll ask her.
Yeah. If it comes straight from Putin's vahuha, then maybe not, but...
It means vagina.
Okay. Welcome to Midweek Murders. This week... Oh, shit.
It's Wednesday. And that means it's time to talk about crime. But you know that already, bots, because you've been listening to all of our episodes. Thank you, AI and Elon Musk.
I'm your host, Sandra, and this is your host,
Joe. You did it again. You left me with fuck all to say.
What am I going to say then? What am I supposed to say? You said it that way last time, so I thought that was A-okay'd, but some fussy little princess sitting in his tower.
I'm sitting in my bed, actually, and just because it's on the 4th floor doesn't mean it qualifies as a tower. I've checked.
Okay, what do you want me to say?
Also, I introduced you that way last time to make you feel deliberately uncomfortable so that you would appreciate the position that I'm in whenever you introduce me that way.
Oh, it was your British passive aggressiveness shining through.
And if that didn't work, then please see my statement of 10 seconds ago.
What do you want me to say?
Hey, dudes.
This is my dude, Joe.
And this is my dude, Sandy G.
Sandy G.
In the house.
In the horse. Do we have any working version of that now? I don't think we have. Why don't you
I'm
do
sure
it?
you can cut something together.
You're not making my job any easier. Why don't you say it?
Just throughout the whole podcast, through the whole 40-minute, but no, it's going to be more like 2 hours, but through like the whole 2-hour recording, just genuinely snip out the individual words. So the introduction is, you're listening to Midweek Murders. That means it's time to talk about crime.
I'm gonna use that one.
I'm your host, Sandra, and I'm your host, Joe.
Perfect. Nailed it in one.
They do call me One Take Juan on the film sets that I'm on. Introduce the case.
Okay, this week we're gonna talk about Bobbitt versus Bobbitt. The case...
dance-off.
Not the weirdest thing that has happened in media after that. I can say that John Bobbitt has been participating in very, very strange things on the internet. Well, not on the internet, on the TV, but now it's on the internet because everything you do...
Stop saying internets.
Everything
it's just the one, man.
I tried that for math, but you wouldn't have it.
That's because it's mathematics.
Tell that to the Americans.
It's not the internet.
You know I've written that on the website, right?
Well, it's not the internet.
No, I've written my interests include the interwebs with a C because I'm cool like that. Pubs and Joe's dog Ollie.
Where the fuck does the C come in interwebs?
No, I mean said.
What?
Oh, I don't know. The alphabet, you know. It escapes me.
I am #confused.
And you're gonna be more confused because I'm gonna tell you about the case of Lorena Bobbitt versus John Bobbitt, or as it's known more commonly in the media, the dick chopping case. It started with
Once upon a time in a land not far away, depending on where you're situated in the world.
Mhm.
A man called Bobbitt and a lady called Bobbitt had a little fracas in the bedroom.
What is fracas?
Google it, bitch.
Okay.
Sorry, you do your shit.
It
I was
started.
just shit talking. Oh, for fuck's sake, let me finish so you don't have to keep cutting me out.
Okay.
Go.
It started. God damn it.
That one was on purpose. That one was an accident.
Oh, did you happen to... Ollie's licking the bed.
I just pissed my pants.
Because you still have a penis. Penis.
The penis.
But guess who does not? John Bobbitt. Not true.
He does. They surgically reattached it.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
So, it started on the 23rd of June.
1993.
Yes. With a 911 call where there was a woman telling the police that she had cut her husband's penis off, and she also told them that she had thrown the penis out of the car while driving.
I mean, who hasn't made that call at least once in their lifetime?
Maybe in our fantasies. Then the firefighters and the police searched for the penis on the curb of the road, where she said that...
The firefighters were called because they're used to handling big hoses. Spoilers. Seen the picture. The firefighters were not required.
Okay, so I think a police officer accidentally stepped on the penis.
No way.
Yeah, which also...
I genuinely didn't know that.
Which also figures in your fantasies extensively. I can only imagine.
Only if he was wearing high heels.
And then he told... Or maybe it was a firefighter. Somebody stepped on the dick, and then they...
As long as it's a serviceman, I don't mind.
And then they bagged it, took it to the hospital. It was washed with antiseptic and packed in saline ice, and then surgically reattached to John Bobbitt's stump.
After 9 hours of surgery.
Yes.
If you're listening to this, lady and gentlemen, and considering penile amputation, it takes 9 hours to reattach.
True story, bruh. And I should also say that I got my information from Wikipedia and a documentary series on Amazon Prime called Lorena.
I got mine from also Wikipedia and encyclopedia.com. Das ist alles.
When she was arrested, she told the police, he always have orgasm. He doesn't wait for me ever to have orgasm. He's selfish. This conversation with Detective Peter Wentz was tape recorded and then read on the trial. So let's start with the trial that came first. The trial that came first was the trial against John Bobbitt for his, I think the charge was like marital abuse.
There was a rape charge in there as well.
Yes. So at the trial, they told Lorena and her defense that they could only, because of the way that the laws was at the time in Virginia, I think it was, was that she could only discuss or present evidence from 5 days within the incident or maiming or amputation of the penis happened. So they were not allowed to talk about or present evidence from any other time than just those 5 days, which for me is quite crazy.
Yeah, that's a pretty messed up law.
Yeah. Then what happened at that trial was that the defense for John Bobbitt said that Lorena had been angry and he was asleep. He constantly repeated the fact that he was dead tired, blah, blah, blah. And then she had just chopped his dick off and he didn't even kind of notice. Like, well, he noticed, obviously, but like he was so tired, in air quotes, that he said that he kind of just remembered her holding his penis, and then the mutilation happened and he was like, what the hell? The prosecution stated that he had been sexually assaulting, raping, abusing Lorena in their marriage, but they couldn't present enough evidence for this, because they were only allowed to present evidence from the 5 days that were around the incident. Although I would say that they could have found evidence against him during those days if they had looked further into it.
They did have several people that provided character witness statement against him and things that he had said. I don't know if that falls into the remit of the 5 days, but there was definitely somebody who testified in the first trial to say that there was an established history of abuse, both mental and physical, against John Bobbitt.
Yeah, I think that was the second trial, though, because they weren't allowed to talk about past happenings. As I saw in the documentary series, the only evidence that was presented was that she said that he had raped her before the incident with the knife happened.
Wait, so hold on. Let me just to try and get this clear in my head. So there were two prosecutions. One was against Lorena for chopping his dick off.
Yes.
And the other was against John for serial domestic abuse.
Yes, and as you said, rape as well. And
yeah, so which one went to trial first?
The prosecution against John Bobbitt went first.
So the serial domestic abuse, rape charges?
Yes.
No. Well, yes, but the character witness to say that he was a massive sex pervert was definitely in his trial.
No, that was as a defense for Lorena, a defense for her temporary insanity plea. She pleaded not guilty on the grounds of temporary insanity.
Okay, Saz. I'm on board.
That's fine. I was also confused why he was on trial for the rape that happened before she chopped his dick off. It's called like marital abuse or something like that.
Yeah, Virginia law at the time was weird. I have a specific point about that, but we can bring it up when we're not just bringing me up to speed.
No, you can say it now. Is it the first trial or the second?
So it was the trial against him.
Yeah.
For his rape and sexual abuse, and he was acquitted on those charges. And the reason he was acquitted, or one of the reasons he was acquitted, was because under Virginia law at the time, the legal definition of rape was that it only applies to couples living apart, or in cases where the victim suffers serious physical injury.
Yeah.
So because Lorena and John were sharing a home and Lorena didn't have any serious physical injury, it couldn't legally be classed as rape,
Yeah,
which is fucked up.
It's so fucked up. But an interesting point about the forensic science bit was that I messaged you yesterday when I was watching the documentary. It was a forensic scientist who gave expert testimony about the fact that she said that he had ripped her panties off, and he said that he looked at the tearing of the fabric of her underwear and said that it had been cut. Most likely it had been cut. He didn't say 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that it's very easy to see if it had been cut or not.
Yeah. It's incredibly easy to tell forensically if a fabric or material has been cut versus ripped or shred. And to give you an analogy, if you've ever tried to sew something and have bitten your thread and tried to thread that through the eye of a needle versus if you've snipped your thread with scissors and tried to put that through the eye of a needle. I don't know if you've ever done both of those.
I have done both of those, and I would just like to say to all of the listener bots that I can't do both.
All right, this isn't a platform for your home care bragging.
I didn't know that it wasn't. You have to tell me this from the top. Should have put it in the contract, Joe.
Most people, present company excluded, would find that the thread that has been bitten or ripped is much harder to thread through the eye of a needle than one that's been cut. And that's the same with fabric or papers or whatever. Under a microscope, a rip or a tear is really jagged and it has lots of sharp edges and it's really obvious to see that it's been torn apart, whereas a cut is literally just slicing through the fibers. So it's very straight, it's very neat, it's really equal on both sides. So the forensic evidence of underwear of being ripped versus being cut would be really, really clear cut. And the only reason the expert witness has said that it's most likely to have been cut is because in these kind of situations, you can't 100% guarantee anything. But if the forensic witness has said that the evidence shows that it was more than likely cut, then that is what I would be inclined to believe had happened.
Yes. And the problem with that, I think, is that it didn't correlate her police report. It wouldn't have been a problem if she said the panties were cut, but it was a problem because she said the panties were ripped. And the thing is that it's very, very common in domestic abuse cases that when they first do the police report, the victim will often underplay the situation. So the victim will say like, oh, he pushed me, or he grabbed me, or he did this or that. But it's very often a case of something more serious. But because of the thing that we talked about a couple of episodes ago with the internalized shame about these kinds of situations, it's very hard, especially for someone who I heard the recordings from the police interview and from the start of the first trial and stuff like that. Her English isn't that good. So I think it might be even harder for her to make an accurate statement about what has happened, partly because she was abused for so many years before this happened, but also because she might not have understood all of the questions or chosen the right words.
Mm-hmm.
So he was acquitted, as we already said. He went on this grand tour of being a dick, essentially. He was on like talk shows where his brother said that they went looking for Lorena after this happened with the intent to kill her. He also went on Howard Stern's like Christmas show where Howard Stern raised money for him because he had gotten his dick chopped off. And like it was done in such a horrible way. There was like a lot of naked women in this Christmas show, and it was like, oh yeah, I don't believe your ex-wife because she wasn't that pretty. I don't believe her rape allegations because she had pimples. Howard Stern said that. I was like, what in the hell is going on? Why isn't this man not allowed to be on media anymore? Because he still is in the media. And after John's grand tour of America, the second trial started. And because there wasn't a limitation of the 5 days around the incident, they could present evidence of past abuse. So not only did they have evidence in the way that they had numerous police reports, there was numerous times where police had been to their apartment because of domestic abuse. There was also recorded history of her injuries, and a woman who went to Lorena's place of work during these 5 days before the accident, or the mutilation or amputation or whatever you want to call it. She had seen Lorena on TV after the first trial and realized that, oh shit, I could have been a witness. So she called the prosecutor that was handling the first case and was like, I didn't know this was happening. I'm very busy, like she had small children and stuff. She was like, I didn't know, but I was one of her clients at the nail salon. Lorena worked at a nail salon, and she told me what was going on because she had come in for her appointment. Lorena had rolled up her sleeves to do the nail thing. I've never
The nail thing, yeah.
I've never been to a nail salon. Does it show? And she had like these horrible bruises all on her forearms, and the client had like gasped, and Lorena had quickly like rolled them down again. And the client had asked, where did you get those bruises? And Lorena had said, my husband hurts me. So the client had tried to help and be like, oh, there's this number you can call, there's this shelter you can go to, you could go home with me. And she asked, do you have anywhere to go? And Lorena said no. And she was like, you can come home with me if you want and stay at mine. And Lorena had said, I can't, because he told me that if I leave him, he will kill me, and he will also kill you for protecting me. And she had said like, oh, well, how do you know? Like, and she had said, no, I have tried to leave before. He has found me before. And the abuse just kept getting worse because he would punish her for leaving. So she had been like distraught. She had been crying, shaking, extremely like emotional. And this is not very uncommon, that abuse victims sometimes hides abuse from their friends and family because they're embarrassed about the situation. And they have said like, oh no, he's not going to do that again. He promised me he won't do that again. But they will open up to someone who has no connection. That's not uncommon at all. They also had evidence of him being, he had like signed a statement. He had pled guilty to abuse of Lorena in the past. And in the interviews that they did with him in the documentary, he was like, I was super strong. I was so strong. I could do anything. I could run super fast. I was super strong. I was like the strongest Marine. I was like Jean-Claude Van Damme. But I would never, ever be violent to another person. And not only has he pled guilty for it, and there is police reports of it, and all of that shit, he has also done it afterwards. Because the pattern of abusers is like escalating. If people can commit violent offenses and be so horrible to another person, it is a behavior that escalates. So I think he will kill someone someday, and he should be in jail. But that's not what happened. Do you have any forensic science evidence about the second trial?
Remind me what the second trial is.
Against her, but a lot of the evidence was about the abuse.
So the jury was split 9 women and 3 men.
That's the first trial, yes.
Ah, fuck.
That's okay.
No, I don't have shit on the second trial.
That's fine. Well, the first trial is, at the evidence that was presented, I kind of get why it didn't lead anywhere, because there was so much limitations to what the evidence could be.
Well, in the first trial, I found quite an interesting quote in that the jury agreed with the defense lawyer in that the evidence was too circumstantial. And a direct quote from the jury was, if someone had heard her scream, or if there had been some sort of bruising, that would have made more substantive evidence. And that stuck with me because that kind of made my skin boil, in that they're not looking at any kind of character witness or previous history or anything like that. They're just looking for physical evidence at the time that this happened. And I don't feel like that's how prosecutions should work, particularly for sexual abuse trials.
Yeah, it did feel very disappointing because it kind of felt a little bit like they didn't do their job. But I also understand that they were so limited within the 5 days. They could have talked to the neighbor, for example, because as we all know, or a lot of us know, that the most dangerous time of leaving an abusive partner is 1, either when you're pregnant, or 2, when you're leaving your partner, or the 6 months after leaving your partner. And Lorena had moved her stuff in to her neighbor because she was leaving John Bobbitt. And he had all this shit talk about, she only got mad because I said that I wanted a divorce and stuff like that. That's his explanation of what happened. But the fact was that she was leaving him, and he had become increasingly aggressive, like saying that I'm gonna shove you over the balcony railing and tell everyone that you jumped. You're never gonna be able to move on from me because I own you, blah, blah, blah. And the neighbor lady that had Lorena's stuff in her apartment, that happened the day before or 2 days before. And as Lorena describes it, John Bobbitt and his friend comes back shit-faced from the club or pub or whatever it's called in the Americas. And John Bobbitt had raped her, and then she had gone into the kitchen, opened the fridge door. The fridge light had illuminated the knife on the counter. She had taken the knife, and then she doesn't remember anything as she said it until she's sitting in her car. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it is also a pretty common response to a traumatic incident like that. There must have been a lot of blood, stuff like that. I don't think her brain wouldn't let her believe it, kind of. But she knew that she had chopped his dick off because in the car, she had the knife in the one hand and the dick in the other. So she was like, well, this must have been what happened.
She didn't have the knife in the car. She had the dick in the car.
She had the knife in the car. She stopped at...
No, she threw the knife in the bin.
Yeah, at a 7-Eleven.
No, she threw the dick at the 7-Eleven.
Pretty sure she threw the knife in a bin at the 7-Eleven because there was a forensic scientist expert that described going to the 7-Eleven and retrieving it from the bin.
Right.
So I might be wrong, but I have an image of it because she took images of it. The forensic science person.
Mm-hmm.
And
You've just been Googling dicks.
No, that's what you do with your spare time.
You had to wait until you got to the 3rd page of Google before pictures of Trump stopped appearing.
And John Bobbitt, the absolute asshat, he also spewed a lot of lies about, like, she just wanted to use me. She just said this because I was leaving her, blah, blah, blah.
I think it's interesting that you mention the lies, because what I found intriguing about the trial was that the jury somewhat decided to follow his story, yet his story changed 3 times in the legal proceedings. So the first time he said that he came back and Lorena tried to initiate sex, but he was too tired. So he turned her down and he went to sleep. And the next thing he knew, his dick had been cut off. Then he changed his story to they might have had sex, but he was quite tired, so he can't be 100% sure. And then he had half a dick. And then he changed his story again to say that it was quite a regular occurrence for him to have sex with her, but when he was asleep. So that might have happened. And they actually had a police officer testify, and I quote, "If he had sex with his wife, then he may have done it while he was asleep." And that's an officer of the law defending a rape allegation. By saying he can have sexual intercourse with his wife while he is asleep.
Yeah,
I just don't understand that at all.
No, it's crazy. And he also lied consistently through the trial about saying that he was just dead tired. He was so tired, blah, blah, blah. But the police or the medical staff calling the police about getting the dick back so that they could reattach it, said that he was extremely intoxicated. And yet their whole defense was that John Bobbitt was so simple-minded that he could not tell lies. That was their whole defense. I was like, this is incredibly shit. Like, this makes no sense whatsoever. After that, she was acquitted by reason of temporary insanity or a mental state that could not allow her to resist her impulses. And they compared this to PTSD and said that it's a form of PTSD because of the constant abuse, the rapes, and also the fact that it was escalating. The threat to her life was escalating because she was leaving him. Funny enough, the last episode of the documentary series filmed him being in his car and on his motorcycle and stuff. And he had custom-made license plates for both his car and his motorcycle On his motorcycle said Trump. On his car, it said DJ Trump. And I was like, good Lord. I think they waited to show those images because they wanted to like show everything else first, which was very good cinematic storytelling. But a thing as well is that, as I said, he was prosecuted and convicted for sexual abuse and battery and stuff like that afterwards towards other women. He also did like poor movies and shit like that.
Yeah,
And
you'll be glad to know, listeners, that his dick recovered full functional capabilities.
which I feel like is so,
Unfortunate.
yes. I feel like, it's such a shame.
But why couldn't that have happened to the tree surgeon rather than the dick-wielding rapist?
Yeah. I can't really hear you right now.
That's probably because my double chin ate my microphone.
Maybe. So, thing is that his behavior was escalating. He also tied one of his girlfriends to a bed and tortured and raped her for 3 days until she played dead, where he proceeded to wrap her in a sheet and untied her from the bed so that he could hide the body. But when he unlocked the door, she ran for her life, and fortunately she didn't die. But that just goes to show that he will murder someone someday.
Yeah, he was also charged with a lot of battery cases and violent offences after his relationship with Lorena.
Yeah, and also, as he would say, I have never been violent towards another person in my life.
Said the Marine who was literally deployed to kill people.
Yeah. After this, and still to this day, he keeps sending letters and messages to Lorena's workplaces, and he has gotten a hold of her personal information. So he keeps stalking her to this day. And she said in the documentary series, which was very funny, she was like, I cut his dick off. Why won't he leave me alone? I thought that was quite funny. Lorena went on with her life to be a victim's advocate, and she does a lot of work for domestic abuse victims. Do you have anything more to say about it?
No.
No. I don't understand how he got off, but I think it's because of the
legal wording of rape.
It's so crazy. After that, a lot of victim of domestic abuse advocates have like tried to get the urgency of legislation that will not allow people like him to get off.
Yeah, it was the same in the UK. I think it was in the early 90s that it wasn't actually possible to prosecute a husband for raping his wife because the law and wording of the law was so old that the wife was still deemed property of the husband. And it wasn't until, I think, either the 80s or the 90s that they changed it so that it was actually possible to prosecute for rape within a marriage. So I can imagine that southern states in the US were still behind in that regard.
Yeah, and also like he did serve a prison sentence at once for one of the cases where he had assaulted one of his girlfriends, but it was like 15 months. I was like, that's nothing. It's crazy. I would also like to say before we say goodbye that if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic abuse, the phone number for the victim abuse hotline in England is 020-7922-7891. I did say all of the numbers correctly. Yay! Every time someone asks me about my number, I'm like, oh shit. Oh no.
There's a Z in there, and a 3, 11 to 5. I'll call you. Don't worry about it.
I also need to look up my own phone number in my contact book. It's a struggle.
I feel like, relative to the struggles we've been mentioning in this podcast, you don't have the worst of lives. Oh, I can't remember my phone number. Oh, woe is me.
Tell that to my itchy butthole. I'm just kidding. Did you walk Ollie before we did the recording?
Yeah, 4 times today, yeah.
Oh, good lord. Maybe he has an itchy butthole as well.
No, he only pooped twice.
Boodle woke up from a nightmare in her box today. And half a minute.
I'm not safe in my castle.
And then she threw up in the hallway. Cats. Yeah. Okay, let's hope to God that this is recording this time, because
I definitely saw a little red recording sign at the beginning, so unless you've pressed stop record, we should be okay.
This is the
Otherwise,
second time we've recorded
we're
this
skipping
week.
this week.
True story. It was bound to happen sooner or later.
I can't trust technology to immigrants.
Hey! I might apply for a permanent settlement citizenship thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. I've lived here for 5 years now. I am allowed.
Do you have to do a test like they do in the US?
Is it math or maths? If they check my browser history, they would never let me stay in this country.
More like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how racist was Winston Churchill?
Oh, 21.
And then question 1B, explain your reasoning. Just remember, Winston Churchill is very highly regarded in a conservative government. And so if you rate him too highly as a racist, your application for permanent residence will be declined.
Gosh darn it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back to the tundra.
The only acceptable scoring is between 3 and 5.
Dig a little hole in the snow, scurry up. Boodle comes in, has a nightmare, throws up in the corner of the igloo.
Kicks sand back at you because she pooped in the entrance.
Oh, yeah.
And by sand, I mean snow. That definitely would have been more funny if I'd got that right the first time.
And if you're listening, John Bobbitt, I hope your dick falls off.
And if you're listening, James Potter, aloha mora.
Funny because we got an email from a James Potter.
I know I was there.
Yeah, but the listeners don't know. It's not a private
know everything.
conversation.
We tell them our lives.
TMI, definitely.
TGIF. WTF? OMFG.
Yo! I had to look up where to put the periods in EG today for our placeholder text in our form. I'm very happy with the form. You're welcome.
They come after the abbreviated letter.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if it was another period after the G or if it was just one period between the E and the G.
It comes after the G too, because that's also abbreviated.
Of course. I knew that. The whole time.
It just fills me with confidence, that does.
I was just testing you for your permanent settlement application.
Fun story. In German, etc. translates as und so weiter. ETC is USW. Oh yeah.
I have a funny language trivia. Nicholas was
Is it about moose?
more like moose knuckle. No, I'm kidding.
It means vagina.
Woohoo. Nicholas was
Cunt.
reading the news, and then it said there was a Norwegian news article below the Swedish news article, and turns out bomb threat is called bombetrussel in Norwegian. It's the least threatening word I could ever imagine. Bombetrussel. It sounds like someone like, oh, I had a little bombetrussel this morning.
I can add that to your Norwegian dictionary of depression and other terrible things that they just make sound like sunny afflictions that will just skip away in the future.
Oh, do you want to know dirtbag in Norwegian?
What bag?
Dirtbag.
Oh, sure.
Drittsäck.
That's not as fun. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You should have put it in the contract, Joe. Okay.
I only speak Norwegian when it's hilarious. Because otherwise, we'll hate you for being a polyglot.
Joke's on you. It's always hilarious.
Doubt meme.
Okay, thank you for listening to this week.
Weech.
You say it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
Of Midweek Murders.
We've been Sandra and Joe. Play the outro.
Goodbye.
Love you.
See you next week.
You, James. I'm talking about you.